passion for genealogy with others. And she is a writer, lecturer, and a researcher specializing in methodology. And I could also be safe in saying that she specializes in Swedish research. But she has quite a list of topics, so it was kind of tricky to find one. I usually try to find a topic that will be of interest to a wide variety of our participants because we have beginners, intermediates, and experts, so to speak. And not everybody is researching at the same level or in the same area. So I try to keep our speakers kind of general. But she is going to be talking tonight about family search. And they have if you're familiar with their website, images, which are generally not indexed, if I'm correct. And it makes it quite challenging sometimes to find some records. So she's going to give us some tips. So take it away, Jill.
Well, thank you, Eve, and it's been a delight to work with the St. Mary's County group. You've been very responsive, et cetera, through this entire thing, through the entire process of coming together today. Great to see such a great crowd as well, and my thanks to GFO for announcing this one. It's obviously a large number of people from that region have joined us here today. So I'm going to share my screen, get kind of set here, move my chiclets over so they're not quite so obvious. And Eve, if you would keep your camera on, but everybody else can turn theirs off if they want to. But if you keep yours on, because then I can check with you to see if everything's okay. Would you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down as to whether or not you're seeing a full screen presentation right now? Thumbs up. Okay, great. Okay. So let's get started here. Be a super sleuth, accessing and using image records. Family Search's latest record search option. Thank you very much for inviting me. I really appreciate that. The Seattle Genealogical Society sends greetings. We have a number of things that you might be interested in, even across the continent. We have the certification discussion group. If you are interested at all in finding out anything about certification by the Board for Certification of Genealogists, please sign up for our wait list for fall classes. We're getting started with our spring classes in another week. So we'd love to have you join us. We have a number of SIGs that are particularly popular, including our DNA one. It's a little on the advanced side. It's not a beginner one, but it meets quarterly. All of the SIGs are free. And we have a beginning genealogy class and an organizing your genealogy class, which are offered. So you might just check and see on the website for those. It's important that we understand the long-standing history that has brought us to reside on the homelands of the native tribes who have lived on this land for thousands of years before the Europeans arrived. For them, it was never a wilderness waiting to be discovered or an unoccupied paradise. St. Mary's County is located on the historical Indian lands of the Piscataway tribe, who shared the waters of Chesapeake Bay with many other tribes. Maryland has no federally recognized tribes, but coordinates with 3 others. But we're here today to talk about Family Search's record search option, their latest one. And let me tell you, this is so dynamic that the examples I'm going to show you today, I just checked a couple of them and they've already changed them. So just be aware that these are examples of the kinds of things you might run into as you're using the image search option. So our themes today, we'll be looking at what are the image records, why access the image records, how to access those image records, what are the issues, and how to write a citation using when you use the image records. And bonus, I'm going to throw in a bit more about the full text search also. That's a newer option even than the images. So what are the image records? Well, it's a relatively new option, let's say within the last year and a half or two, to the other search options in Family Search. You're probably very familiar with putting a name in and getting the records and seeing what's there. The digital records, however, they can come online within 24 hours of submission to Family Search. Excuse me a minute. So once the team out in the field has filmed records, they send them in to Family Search. Family Search does its thing, cataloging them, and then those digital records can come online. But indexing takes longer, particularly the way they've been doing it in the past, which is by a manual means, which would take up to 2 years to get the documents actually digitized and indexed. Problem with indexing is that it would be only principals only. Now they're starting to do to use artificial intelligence to do a full character recognition type of a process to their records so that we now have full text search, which I'll talk about at the end. So Family Search is putting the newly digitized records into images. They are not putting them into the catalog. So the images is actually the most current of the records that you're going to find. Now, the problem with all of this is that it is so dynamic that what you will see today, you may not see tomorrow, and I'm going to show you an example of that. So how do you access them? Well, it starts with that search button and you'll get a drop down. Don't be too quick to get to records. Instead, go to images right there in that drop down. So why even access these image records? Well, it now seems fairly obvious here. It's an option when you're doing geographic searches. So if you're searching in a particular area, then this might be a good option for you. It has records you won't find anywhere else on their website, and that includes probably anywhere else at all. You won't find them in the catalog. You won't find them if you do a surname search. You'll just know that the records are there. It is the most current, even more current than the Family Search catalog. So here's an example. I was researching Frederick Eiler from Illinois, an immigrant from Germany. I researched this guy for the last 5 years. I got nowhere for about 3 years. All I really knew is that he was married in Oberglen because he married my great grandmother. He was her second husband, and he declared that he was born in Oberglen. Well, so what do? I go to the card catalog. In 2018, I went to the card catalog for Oberglen, Kreisans, Alsfeld, Hesse-Darmstadt, and put it into the search piece and got the records. There's only 3 sets. I'm sorry I'm coughing so much. You're lucky I have a voice at all. So I have 3 choices, but he wasn't Jewish. Civil registration didn't start until the 1870s, and this guy was before that. So I knew I had to go to the church records. So I did. I had 2 choices. I had the church book and I had a duplicate church book. Well, I always go to the first one, figuring that if I'm doing a duplicate, I'm probably not going to put in as much information. I got to it. I was happy with that. And oh, so pleased. In 2018, I had the little magnifying glass and the dreaded film roll. Well, the magnifying glass told me that I had, excuse me a minute. The magnifying glass told me that I had an index. Oh, yay. So I'm happy with that. Well, let's fast forward to 2023. Okay, then what did I find? No index, only the film roll. What's going on? Wait a minute. I've lost a feature I had before. I happen to know what I was looking for from an index, but I didn't have the original. Now I only had a film roll. Well, that wasn't very happy. That did not make me happy at all. So what were my choices? I could go to Salt Lake City Well, and from Washington, that's not so far. I could hire a genealogist to go pull the record for me. At the time, I could use the Family Search Library request option, but unfortunately, that wasn't available anymore, or I could try the Wayback Machine and see what I could find. Well, I said, wait a second. They wouldn't just take it away from us, would they? No, what they had done, and I gave it some thought here, and all of a sudden that light bulb went off. I said, let's go check images. So I did. So I went to images 2023, and they were there. They were there. And the reason why I felt that they were probably there is because it gave me an image group number, a DGS number. You're going to want to use this number now instead of a film number when you make your citation. So my note information from the index was that Frederick married on the 11th of November of 1855 to Gertrude Schoenhals, not my great grandmother. This was in Germany. I wanted to see what happened to Gertrude, but I needed to start with the marriage. So I went to images, pulled it up. This is what I got. This is what the page looks like, still looks like this today. But you can see here that it is only a place search. I can't search on Frederick Eiler. I can only search on a place. So I put in Oberglein. I get many options, and this actually is a little infuriating to me. There's at least 5 different options here of different levels of jurisdiction. There's only one that has any records in it, but you can't tell that by looking at the options. Just warning you. So I pull up Oberglein and I'm thrilled. There's 8 of them. That means that they did film them. They did put them over here. I can look at images. I just need to find that marriage record. I always go for the original if I can. And I see that these first ones here are labeled Oberglein and they are the marriage records as well. So I'm very excited about that. So I click on it. I click on it. I even start looking. I don't do what I should do. This was a rookie mistake on my part. I started looking for that 1855 marriage. Well, the problem is Kelsterbach. It's not Oberglein, it's Kelsterbach. So back to the page again. I give them some feedback and I say, wait a second. The first 3 records that you've got filed under Oberglein are not Oberglein, but they're Kelsterbach instead. Now, I don't know how, at this point, I don't know how fast they're going to make the correction, but I can tell you that this correction was made within less than a week, that they removed these 3 records from this and gave them to Kelsterbach like they should have. Now I can scroll down for the rest of the way, and I see down at the bottom the last entry, the eighth entry, because the first 3 were wrong. I see religious marriage records between 1808 and 1875. I'm good. Okay, but there's 448 images. Well, I don't know about you, but I am not inclined to go scroll 1, scroll 2, scroll 3, scroll 4. I did enough of that back there when it was just film sitting in Salt Lake City. I don't want to do that anymore. So I take this and I click on it and I get this. Well, that looks pretty familiar. That looks like a roll of film that's been digitized and available to me in image form. I don't know how this particular one is organized, but I need to look at that first before I start plowing in looking for that 1855 marriage. So I notice a couple of things. One is I check to make sure it's Oberglein here just because I'm now hyper focused on that. And then I notice that this first part, the first 4 slides here, images are what I usually see whenever I see a film roll. But then I notice something else. Wait a minute. These are different. These look different, are different. What are they? So I opened up that first one, and the first one I discover is actually the marriages for 1808, the first year. So what the pastor has done is he's organized these by year in books. And since each book is a year, I can just scroll through 448 images here until I get and test and see until I find a book that's 1855. And I know enough German, I can see this. I can see that it's 1808. Okay, so I scroll down. I scroll down, and lo and behold, here's 1855. I can see it clearly. And I just have to scroll through the 1855 ones to find him. So it's not that hard. Even if, even if I didn't know the year, I know that Germans marry after their 20s to about 25. So I'd really only have about 5 years to look at. I wouldn't have 448 images to look at. I'd have about 5 years worth of images to look at, which is entirely possible. And lo and behold, here is the marriage record of Frederick Christian Euler. And Frederick Christian Euler was born on the 27th of February, 1823 in Niederwaldungen, and he married Gertrude Schonhals, who was born on 11th of October of 1816. So she's slightly older than him. Well, I won't bore you with the story of Frederick Christian Euler, other than the fact he is a complete scoundrel and abandoned her, went to America, married my second great grandmother as a bigamist. He then proceeded to lie and to do even worse through the course of the courts in Illinois. But nevertheless, I'm very glad that I do not share any genetic pool with this man. So, what did we learn? We learned how to use the image records. We have to do locational searches. This is really great, actually. If you know the area that your person was from, then you can do those locational searches. You want to check the title of the record set. Check and make sure that the title of the images matches what you're looking for. Don't be like me, where I looked for about 3 or 4 times for 1855, only to discover that I was looking in Kelsterbach. You will have to scroll until indexing catches up with digitizing or artificial intelligence does. And access will change over time. So if you find what you want, don't think it's going to be there forever. Go ahead, copy it, make sure you've got a citation, make sure you know how you got to it, that sort of thing. And then be prepared that it might change over time for you. So the order of doing our searches then relies on the following. You want to do a name search in Family Search. That is, go ahead, put that first and last name in those fields for records. You want to do a name search in Ancestry. You want to glean all the easy stuff. And then you want to do a catalog search in Family Search. It has the best catalog and the most comprehensive. And then finally, you want to do an image search in Family Search based on your location. So what does that come down to? Well, comes down to what I call N2CIS. And if that helps you remember the order in which you want to do this, I will even illustrate why you want to do it in this order. Okay, let me now give you a series of examples of things I've run into while using these records. So, probate documents for Washington Zuck of Fremont County, Iowa. I knew very little about Washington Zuck. I knew he resided in Fremont County, Iowa, and that was about it. And I knew he died. Okay, so following that N2CIS approach, I first went to Family Search to look for probate documents. Nothing. I went to Ancestry. Well, they had one page of his probate record, and that one page was the administrator's assignment. So I knew who the administrator was, and I knew the date he now died, which was in 1900. So I had some basic information now. I did a catalog search, but found out basically that they were instead hidden from me when I was home in my bunny slippers. Those of you from the GFO as well as from SGS know that your particular facility is an affiliate of Family Search, and as a consequence, you can go to your facility there and unlock these images. But this is the new icon that they're using. So they're not using the camera with the key over it anymore. They're using the camera with the caution sign and an exclamation point. This indicates that it is not available at home. And in fact, if you click on it, this is what you get, of course. And this will tell you whether or not you have to go to the Family Search Center, to the Family Search Library, or to an affiliate library. And SGS and GFO are both affiliates, so that works out fine. Or in Seattle, our center is about 45 minutes to an hour away because we have to cross the city to get to it. And so it's really a pain to get to. So I don't even like to go down there anymore. So the order of doing our search, when searching for a person in a particular geographic area, do that regular name search like I did for Washington Suck. Do a regular name search in Ancestry. Do a catalog search in Family Search just to make sure that it's not there. Okay, now it's time to do an image search. This is what the page looks like. And we do a place search. I know Fremont County, Iowa, but I put in just Iowa, and this is what comes up. You can see the Iowa there. And so when I click on the update there, I get well, there at this time there were about 75,000 records total in this. I hadn't even clicked on update yet. You can see I've got China there. So there's a lot more now in images. Okay, but when I click on Iowa, I get 97 records. Well, how do I filter this out? I can see that Fremont County is right up on top, but still. Well, over here, they will tell you what jurisdictional areas they have covered with the records that you've clicked on based on your location. So in this case, there are 4 different counties that are covered: Benton, Fremont, Greene, and Jones. So sometimes it says show more and then you can find some more. But nevertheless, here there were 4, and I'm looking for Fremont. So this is good. This is good. So I look for Fremont, making sure that that's there. I can see that I have a date here. There's a record type and number of images, etc. But this is what's interesting about these records for probate. Family Search organized it by name of a person. So no, you can't do a person search. But in the case of 1900, I could very quickly go through these and find Washington Zuck. He's not in chronological order. He is in some kind of an order, but I don't know what it is. But he's there, and it wouldn't take me very long just to scroll through this list to see if the guy I was looking for in Fremont County, if not Zuck, was found here. But Washington Zuck happens to be right up at the top. I am thrilled. But look at this. There's 143 images in this probate file, not one. So where Ancestry is discrete in what it shows you, Family Search is showing you the entire file. And that's what's great about using these. You're not just limited to a single sheet of paper. When we open them up, when we open this up, we get this. Well, it looks kind of familiar. Looks like what we ought to see. But what's great about it, that second image, number 2, has a list of all of his heirs and also their ages. So don't be afraid that there's no help and it's only a geographic search and you're going to have to click through everything. There's all sorts of ways that the organization has been done to be able to help you. Now, it really wasn't to help you. It was to help the clerk that made the record. Here's another example. Okay, now we're going to look at recently filmed records. They're further down. If you come down, you'll see an image kind of like this. And if you want to view recently added images, you can do that. I do a lot of research in Hamilton County, Iowa. I know what they've got in images, but I might want to look at what they've added recently. So if you're very familiar with a particular area, this might be where you go. And you just scroll down to the bottom. So here we have some newly filmed ones. This was a search on Ontario. You can see over here on the right-hand side that there were a number of options. I had 10 options, 10 physical places. I'm looking at Leeds and Grenville, and I get some records. I get 8 sets of records, township property records for Grenville. I had no idea that these were here. All of these were recently added images. Now, let's look at an embedded index here. Shelby County, Indiana, marriages of 1957. Now, it's not often you can get marriages in 1957. So this is really pretty special here. So I looked at Shelby County. You can see Indiana there, and I have a number of options. And I'm looking at Shelby, Indiana. And here's what they look like. Well, wait a second. These look a little different. Why do these look different? Well, this part kind of looks the same. It's the cover of the book. I can get the actual book title, which I really enjoy. I use that for my citation often. Um, but there's other things here that are different. I would draw your attention to the fact that these are in color. Yes, Family Search is starting to do all of their imaging in color. This will make it easier to read because um, the black and white that they have are often highlighted, adjusted so that they're more easier to read, more black and white. And by doing that, they lose that gray tone that's in between that letter that fades off on the right-hand side, and you can't tell whether it's an E or an A. So in color, you don't have that. So having these in color is really a good thing. But look at it something else. There's lists on this page. There's lists, and it looks like there's even tabs. So when we're looking at these thumbnails, don't dismiss them. Don't try to go straight to the thing. Look and see how the records are actually organized. Well, if we click on one, we actually do see it is an index. And in this one, it's the groom's list, and it's alphabetical. Here's all the A's. Now, the A's aren't going to be in order. They're going to be in order that they got married. So you're not going to see them in alphabetical order. You're just going to see all the A's together. So you're going to have to look through them all. So if we were looking at Delbert Bailey here, who married Shirley Lay in 1957, he's on page 95. Now that's not image 95 because we had those books and book covers in the front, but it's about 95. So I go to the page number 95, and there's Delbert marrying Shirley, and there's all of their information from 1957. So what did we learn here? We are frequently looking at a single locale in images. And if so, consider using that view recently added images, particularly if you're looking in the same area over and over again. These are very dynamic. And so Family Searches is looking at records, they're filming them, and then they throw them into images. Well, they may be still in the town you're interested in, taking photos of something else at the Historical Society, and they put those in. So it's entirely possible that these recently added images will be very dynamic. Embedded indexes existed because the clerk needed them, not because they're trying to help genealogists of the future, but rather because the clerk needed to know
When did Delbert Bailey marry? And she needed to, or he needed to be able to get to that record fast. The newest records have a real thumbnail and not a fuzzy one, and the filming is in color. Be flexible because what you see today may not be there tomorrow. Okay. Let's look at how you filter these. We're going to just, instead of looking at our view, our recently, we're going to look up here at some Florida records that exist here. So when I do a search on Florida, I got 12,294 hits. Way too many, way too many. And so I'm over here and I've got 69 places within Florida that are covered. If you have somebody in Florida, you may want to look over here, including Key West, obviously. But I can do some filtering here. Besides being just able to filter on a smaller geographic area like a county here, I can see here that this research wiki sidebar has got some other things I can do. Now, the thing about this is that it's scrollable because there's lots more options if you scroll down. But I like to start right here with life events. When I click on life events, all of them, I get this. So these are the number of records in parens that are helping me. For example, death, 2,130. For birth, there's 33. Education, there's 26 record sets. So I can click on one of these and reduce my 12,294 down substantially. I can even within that. So I'm clicking on birth now, and there were however many records there were on birth, 33. Well, some are birth records, some are delayed birth records, and some are delayed birth certificates. But it's also telling me that there may be other ways to be able to get to a birth date by other records that are existing in this group in this location. I'm not interested in those right now, but I could click on them. But try these first. Now you can click on these and unclick them. So it's just a simple toggle. And if you weren't interested in a delayed birth certificate, unclick it and see what the rest are. So, okay. So now I'm only interested in Leon County. And I can click on the county. I've got my birth records here, and it's giving me that these records for these birth records, delayed birth certificates, delayed birth records, are available in these locations only. So if I'm looking at Martin Township or Dade County or something like that, I don't have any need to go any further than this because I already know that they're not covered because there's only these three counties that are covered. But don't forget you have to click the update button to get it to work right for you. So just click on that and that will assume your filters that you have requested. Okay, here's another one just so that you know. I did look up St. Mary's County in Maryland just to see. They have 10 places. Avenue, Bloomsbury, District 8, Huntersville, Leonardtown, Point Lookout's got the most at 20. St. Andrews Parish, St. Mary's City, Valley Lee, and William and Mary Parish. Those are all covered. So you can see what's available here. Just to give you some further example, if I were to scroll down further, I found it interesting that they had an internment camp. You may know that. I didn't. They have military records, they have military prisoner of war records, and they have probate records, all for St. Mary's, Maryland, for these particular locations. You might find that of interest. Okay, so what did we learn? We may miss out on some records if we only use the recently added list. So you're going to want to start with and get very familiar with the records that are totally accumulated for your physical location. Use that sidebar to match your research question and for reducing the number of available record sets that you even have to look at. The smaller your jurisdiction, the easier it is for you to use images. There's no question about it. If you're looking at New York City, let me tell you, it's huge. If you've done a lot of research in one particular geographic area, you might want to start with newly added images, but only after you've seen what's in there totally. Do not be intimidated by the number of images you may see, because there may be an embedded index or other tool to assist you. So just be aware you need to open up the record set to look at it. Stay flexible. Okay, so how do you do manuscripts? Well, that's a little trickier. Can I find the foster parents or children in religious records for Hamilton County, Iowa? Some of you may know that I wrote a book about 46 orphan-trained children from New York City who came to Hamilton County in the fall of 1890. These children were unnamed. I went down the rabbit hole of trying to find out the names of each of these children, and I got to the point of where I could name 35 of them. The problem was, of course, I knew that since they arrived in 1890, there'd be no talk about them prior to 1890. But at this point, I was looking to see whether or not there was any trend of stress in the foster families. So I admit I'm fishing. So there's just no question. I'm just fishing. So I followed my N2CIS. I started by looking at Ancestry. I looked in Family Search, and they didn't have anything that I was interested in. None of these were churches that my 35 foster families belonged to. I looked in Ancestry, and they didn't even have anything at all. That was pretty abysmal. And so then I went to Image Search. Just a second. Okay. So I went to Image Search for Hamilton County, and I found that they had 115. And I could see over here that they were covering 6. You can't see the 6th one, but they were covering 6. But the one I was interested in was Kamrar. The reason why I was interested in Kamrar is because it's the only township that in the 1895 off-year census in Iowa, they did not, that they had lost. So I wanted to see if there was any records in Kamrar about my particular orphans and their foster families. And so I could see here that they had some church records. So I started looking. Now, it's odd here, I think, that they have the number 1 item after the number 2 item. I can't figure that out. But nevertheless, just be aware that their item numbers are on 1 film roll, and so they've got it divvied up. So I clicked on it to see what was there. I checked, of course, to make sure it was Kamrar, because I've been burned once, not a fool twice. And then I was interested in how they set up the first pages, and I looked at those to see what they were, and they were the Church of the First Presbyterian Church, which I knew a number of the foster families attended. So I went to the first page. I saw that it was Hamilton County, Iowa, Tollins Grove. That's good. Presbyterian Church. That's good. This was the very first page, 1875. Well, I didn't need 1875. I needed to start at 1890. So I flip page, flip page, flip page to get to the 90s. So I start doing a page by page reading of the deacon's notes. And I see that one of my foster families is actually a deacon. He's one of the 3 deacons, and he shows up every week, and they chat about who's going to be a member, who's not going to be a member, or whatever. And I get to May 1st, 1893. At this point in time, the person who is the orphan who is with them is about 9 years old. About 9 years old. Elder A. Hendricks, who had committed a great sin by breaking the 7th commandment, was by consent excommunicated from the church. Well, this would be an extremely stressful event for the family, no question about it. To be excommunicated from the church, that would be tough. So, this was a family that looked on the outside to be fairly calm, farming community, that whole thing. But there was trauma in the family. And consistently, I found an extreme amount of trauma in the families of those who were foster families for these 46 children. So the thing to know is to be aware that you can always get back to the little tiny thumbnails by clicking on the matrix. That's what I call it. Some people call it a bento box, but click on the matrix and you can get back to those thumbnails, which you may need to do if you're looking for the date. So what did we learn? Well, we learned that click on the matrix can be a tool to assist us in understanding the record set as a whole. I highly recommend you spend at least a few minutes on that view of those thumbnails just to get an idea of how you think it might be organized, and then check to see how it is organized. The smaller the geographic area and population, the easier. Camera is very small, and in 1890, this was an extremely small populated county. You have to be careful. There may be multiple record groupings named the same, like religious or military records. It's very irritating. I had the opportunity to ask David Rencher about that. He was, I won't say embarrassed, but he admitted that there was a problem initially with images in that they didn't label the record sets very accurately. And so, as a consequence, it was going to take a little while before they corrected that. Now, those of you who are out there who are engineers, I do a pre-apology to you. I have great respect for engineers, but his comment was, that's what happens when you have computer engineers doing the labeling of these, and we don't let them do that anymore. So I just want to let you know you may run into too many same named record groupings within a record set. Well, we've run into some of the dilemmas, but let's look at a few more. So first of all, misidentified. This is that Oberglein that was really Kelsterbach. And we came in here and here's Kelsterbach, and there's no reason to believe that any Oberglein records are going to be contained within here at all. At all. Feedback button. I tell you, I was so impressed with how quickly they corrected this. It was really amazing to me. So don't hesitate. If you click on that, you'll first get 5 little smiley to frowny faces. Don't hesitate to click the frowny face. And then you'll get a little dialog box where you can actually add a comment about that particular page. So don't hesitate to use that feedback button. They want that feedback. Dilemma number 2, no index in a very large collection. I was stunned at this, and this could be changed by now. So I'm looking at Hamilton County. Well, it turned up that I'd clicked inadvertently on Hamilton County, Ohio, which is Cincinnati. And here we have death certificates, 3,341 of them. Just a lot of death certificates. Says that it's all 1924. I opened it up. Well, it does seem to be only 1924, but it's not just Hamilton County. It does seem to group by county, but it's not in chronological or even alphabetical order. So this would be a scroll job. This would be a problem. So just be aware that sometimes you're going to run into no index, large collection, and you've got no choice but to try and go through them and figure it out. I did not take that time to do that. I can only tell you it was 1924, but there were more counties than just Hamilton County in this grouping. So here's recent images. So this showed up Pierce, Washington State. And it was interesting to me that these were the deed records showed up in images. Well, I happen to have given a presentation on these, But here it is under images. I clicked on it. Yep, you're right. It is the deeds. But when I went instead back to the catalog for Pierce County, they actually had an index there. Not just the deeds, but the index was there. And also, so were the deeds. I am not sure why they did this duplicity here. They didn't need to. But just be aware that sometimes it is easier to find them in the catalog. That some things get duplicated in images. When you even scroll down, then you can get to the actual image itself. So, um, so remember that NCIS business where you go to the catalog before you go to images? This is the reason why. Okay. Uninformative titles. History records for Escambia County, Florida. Well, I thought this was odd. History records, what's that? That could be anything, right? It could be a scrapbook. It could be somebody's reminiscence. It could be almost anything. So I clicked on it, of course, to find out what it was. Well, I'm looking at it. I can kind of see it's got the beginnings of the film roll. Looks like there's lists, which I always like lists because that means that there might be some kind of an index to it. So I clicked on it, and I got to a point of where it was the description of what it was. It's the historic court cases of Escambia County, Pensacola, starting in 1821 to 1838 or 1866. So this was not historic records. This was court records for Escambia County, and it should have been labeled that way. So, so I get a description of what it was. I get an index by name of who the parties are. That's great. I get to know the case number and the year so I can find it. So I thought I'd just click on one to see what I could get. Well, in 1840, case number 628, S.C. Kaiser versus the sheriff of Escambia County. Kaiser was the keeper of the ferry at the mouth of the Escambia River. A new contract commanded Kaiser to run the ferry 2 times a day, and he did not want to do that. He asked the sheriff not to serve a summons to close the ferry until a meeting was held to make a new contract. Ferry rates and hours were outlined. How cool would that be if you were related to Kaiser or the sheriff for that matter? This would be really cool information to have. So, nevertheless, don't be put off necessarily if you're in the right county and you see a title that doesn't look right. You might still want to check it out. So, what did we learn? Well, we knew that record sets could be misnamed. You want to follow that N2CIS routine. Check images after you've done your other searches. Alert Family Search to any anomalies that you find. And we have to be flexible. Okay, let's look at the citations. Let's see if we can make them any easier. Okay, here we have the matter of Lydia Coons and her this is not her will. This is in the court. This is her court case here. And we're interested in Lydia. And we can see over here on the right-hand side that we have the St. Lawrence Dower records, 1830 to 1871. But over here on the right-hand side, once we scroll down, we have to scroll down because it's way at the bottom, we see a citation here, and we can see that little double document to the right of that, and we can copy that. So if we copy that little double document there, we get this citation here. Okay, so up in the right-hand corner, we have what Family Search is giving us, and what we have down here is how I'm going to modify it to make it much more logical for you in the future to find this document. So the first thing is they've given it a very generic title, St. Lawrence County, New York, United States records, August 5th, 2018. Well, I really don't care about that date that they uploaded it to images. That doesn't make any difference. I'm interested in keeping that URL, certainly so, for Lydia. But I know that these are the Dower records, so I'm going to be changing the title because this is just not very informative. So these are the St. Lawrence County Dower records between 1830 and 1871. So I'm going to change that. So you can see down below where in bold, I've changed the title. I've kept the word images. The only thing I changed on Family Search was it's supposed to be italics. On the URL, I dropped everything to the right of the question mark, so it's shorter. I gave my access date, not their upload date. I wanted to keep that image number because even though that might change, the image number might be helpful to me. At least it'd tell me if I was in the record set if I have 212 images. It's the Lydia Coons Dower entry, filed the 24th of October, 1833. I have a tendency for my citations, every one of them goes from big to small. You can see here I start at the very highest level and I keep getting it smaller and smaller. I get to the page, then I get to the image number, then I get to the person, then I get to the date. And then I do a semicolon, and then I do the court. So this was all pretty regular for me in how I do it. So the individual is always the last thing I put into my citation before the semicolon. That's how I do every one of them. No panic. No frustration with Elizabeth Shown Mills. This turns out to be the way she does 99.9% of her citations. So what did we learn? Family Search does a pretty good job on their citations of getting you to the page, but they don't get you to the person. So you want to check the title of the record set to make sure it's informative and what you are looking at. That might be even the title of the book that shows up in that first image. Include that DGS number if given. Remember, I pointed that out to you. There may be redundancy you can eliminate. I didn't have to put New York in there a million times. You will have to add information concerning your person of interest every time. Okay. Break time here just for me for a minute. Let's talk about their latest feature, full text search. What is the Family Search Labs? It's an experimental use of AI to transcribe records to make them full text search. That means every word search. You may have been frustrated in the past when they would index them manually and only put the principles of a court case, for example, but your guy showed up as a witness. So full text search is great. If you're looking for times when your ancestor participated, but maybe not as a principal. The other thing it's really helpful for, think about deeds. Let's say you're on Polecat Creek, is where your guy is located. You could do a search on Polecat Creek. Find everybody who had a deed on Polecat Creek. So this is every word search. It will also provide a rough transcription of the document, and I'm using the word rough here, literally. Now, to get to this, you have to manually enter the word labs after familysearch.org. So just eliminate anything else after the org that might show up. Keep a / in there and put in labs. And you get to this page right here. It's an experiment. You do have to be signed in to do all of these items here. But notice when you start your search that the search, you can do a name search or a keyword search. Polecat Creek, or a place search, or an image group search. So these are really helpful. Excuse me a minute. Okay. So let's just say, here's our Lydia Coons again. Maybe she's here. She is. Those Dower records between 1830 and 1871. Would you want to transcribe this? No, no, you probably wouldn't want to. But over here on the right-hand side here, we get a summary, we get the dates pulled out and the people listed, and we get a transcription using artificial intelligence. Now, we all know that artificial intelligence is truly artificial. And as a consequence, it's not going to be completely accurate, and it's not. So I decided to look and see how accurate was this. So here's what I did. I took what I had in blue in the last one. I started by putting those citations in there. I had the one that they gave us. I had the one that I wanted to use instead. I had the summary, and then using track changes, I can show the changes I made. Now, there was no change in the summary. I was very impressed with the summary. It was very good. But the arrangement of the words right at first, where it had the names of the parties, and then it had the curlicues, and then there were some spacing issues there, it can't do that. Artificial intelligence reads left to right, period, end of conversation. So that means that you're going to have to work with it a little bit to massage it, to get it to look kind of like the document. And that's what you see here in the gold. So it's interesting for me to kind of look at how this changed. There were words and phrases completely dropped. But you know what? It's a whole lot easier to start with something than nothing. There's my citations and the family search citation. Here's that summary that came out perfect. And then here's the body of it as well. So our themes today have been: what are image records? Why access image records? How to access image records? And what are the issues? How to write that citation to make it a stronger citation than what family search gives you, even though they give you a pretty good one. And then the bonus is full text search. So what did we learn today? We learned to use those image records and follow that into CIS approach. Refine the search using the life event, record type, and the date field. Click on the matrix if you want to get back to those thumbnails to see how the entire record set is organized. Remember, that clerk didn't want to leaf through the pages any more than you do, and so he or she would often set up embedded indexes. Check out how the records are arranged. Are they in alpha order, chrono order, or no order at all? And sometimes there's an embedded index. I want to thank you for listening today. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you get excited and you want to give it a try if you haven't already surreptitiously been looking. So with that, then, I'd like to hear from you. I'm going to stop the share. I'd like to take any questions you might have. And then I'd also like to hear from you if you've used these records before or used the full text search. I'd like to hear about any experiences you've had as well. Thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it. A question from Diana. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was fooling around trying to look for some images while you were speaking. And I noticed that some of them were still locked out. So it's not, you still have to
Oh,
get
it
them.
doesn't mean that they're not locked out. So that's entirely possible. Yes.
Yeah, because I was looking and I was trying to find a marriage record and I was in images for New Jersey and I kept picking the ones that might be, I even know the county that it was in and those were all locked. I mean, there's no images. So I guess I have to go back to the Family Search Center this
Yeah,
week
yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
that.
It
So
that's
that
an
happens.
agreement that they have with the owner.
Got
And
it.
so it doesn't matter how they present that information to you is still in agreement with the owner.
Got it.
So,
Okay. All right, thanks.
sure. Yeah, Robin.
I was wondering if you know if Family Search has any future plans to combine the images and the catalog into one single destination for doing our searching.
Well, all I can say is that when I first started using the images, Robin, they only had 4 record sets in there. They now have millions of records in there,
Right.
millions. So they are definitely moving towards artificial intelligence doing their full text searching. There's no question about it. I don't know what their plans are for the catalog versus images. One's going to melt into another or what's going to happen. But I just know that there's millions of records. I mean, we saw just a partial list of them from a 4 record set. I mean, you could look at something from Canada, you could look at probate records in the US, you could look at wills and something from Australia, and that was it. So,
So the
they've
full
been
text,
very aggressive.
the full text search is focused on the image collection then, is that correct?
No, not necessarily. Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for this wonderful presentation and while you're struggling with your voice, it was very informative and I'm a little concerned that I don't think this is very widely known to people, that they continue to go to the catalog, not realizing that that's not being updated anymore.
Right, right. Well, or even worse, they're only doing surname searches. It just a few years ago, David Rencher told me that if you're only doing surname searches in Family Search, you're really only searching about 1/4 to 1/3 of the records. I mean, that's pretty amazing, actually. You know, and you can see why manual indexing isn't working for them. They are a leader in the field right now of reading handwriting and by artificial intelligence. And they are branching out into other languages as well. And I hear that French is going to be their next one.
Well, they have the benefit of the BYU, students there and all of the stuff that they're experimenting with.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. Other questions? Christine says she's been using labs and creating spreadsheets by surname, etc., using the URL for future reference. Good idea. Yeah. That's what I do like about a Family Search, that they often allow you to do a spreadsheet of the responses. And I've done that before with certain long-term projects that I've done. Other questions? I'm not hearing any. I'm looking. Let's see. Does family have future plans to combine? That was Robin's question. Okay. I'm not seeing any others.
Somebody asked you if you knew any Morellis in Oregon.
All my Morellis are in Connecticut or Italy. So the Morellis aren't there's only, I think they're raised down in Los Angeles, and that's about it. So no, the Morellis came over late, and actually a big percentage of them went back. So there's very few Morellis here in the United States. So yeah, Tom.
Yeah, Jill, I just wanted to give you a perspective. I've been working at the Maryland Archives, volunteering for the past long time, digitizing Maryland probate records.
Mm-hmm.
And there was really a big change in the way that we did the digitization pre and post-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Because pre-pandemic, each image group would have lots of records in them and lots of images in them for lots of different people. And after the pandemic, we started doing each image group would be one person.
Mm-hmm. Like
And
Washington Zuck.
that's what allowed them to do the Washington Zuck thing.
Right.
And you
right.
didn't show the advanced search down at the bottom of that scrolling, but it turned out if you put Washington Zuck in the keyword field, it will do a name search
Mm, because it's set up that way. I got
because
it.
it's set up
That's a
that way.
that's a good note.
And that was just something that we had to do to change how we took the images. And the only downside to that is that it really slowed us down
Yeah,
in terms of the speed of taking the images.
right.
But it made it easier to, first of all, get the records online. Pre-pandemic, it would take maybe up to a year to get things online that we took pictures of. And post-pandemic, it's maybe a week or two.
Right.
And so I can see stuff that I shot 2 weeks ago online. So it's very interesting. So
It's a very changing field. Yes, very interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that, Tom. I hadn't thought of it. I really hadn't given too much thought about how they were making the record grouping smaller than what they were on a film roll. But you're right, that's exactly what they are doing. The problem is that right at first,
yeah,
they named them all the same.
right.
You
Well,
know?
and we're not
So
doing,
that's the part that takes a while, is getting it named right, getting the administrative piece of it right, and that
yeah.
sort of right.
And of course, we're not working with films, we're working with the actual papers and books and things like that. So,
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, well, there's something like over 300 work groups in Ukraine right now.
Mhm. Yep.
So, okay. Any other questions? Thank you for sharing that. That's very interesting. Anybody else?
I had a question.
Sure, sure. William's iPad, go ahead.
It was iPad, but I was going to try to change it. I loved your presentation. You were making a comment about engineers, but I thought that your presentation was highly organized and very well structured. So the engineers in me would love it, really enjoyed it. My question is on the images that disappear. When you provide a citation and the image is gone, the citation's no longer applicable?
Well, no, because you saw it then under that. And so that's when you want to put that access date on there to let people know that you looked at it on that date and you saw it on that date and you got that information on that date. The fact that it isn't there right then does not obviate your citation.
Okay, so there are two reasons for the citation. One is to justify the accuracy of your work, but also to guide someone who wants to look at the original record. And I guess.
Oh, and that's why when you put a title that says St. Lawrence, New York records, and that has no meaning. That's why you really want to look that given citation by Family Search over carefully to make sure that it is at least a bit informative, because maybe they have moved it from the images over to the catalog.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it still might be somewhere, or maybe they sold it to Ancestry. I don't know. So, so it's somewhere, and that's a good title. So there's nothing wrong with your citation just because they moved the images. I remember back in the old days when I'd be scrolling through some census records and there'd be 1,000 pages in them, and I probably had a relative on every other page, that I would be citing the image number. And then what they did is they broke it down into townships. My image number was worthless.
Yeah. But you added the extra.
Yeah, unless you added the extra.
Yeah.
Right. So, and even the URL wasn't any good anymore either.
Yeah.
Because they didn't use permalinks. That's why that DGS number is pretty important, because that will get you to the right film roll at least, or the right grouping, like Tom is suggesting.
Thank you so much.
Sure. I hope it's been helpful.
Really wonderful.
Thanks. Any other thoughts? Any other questions?
Most of the comments were just thanking you. So,
Oh.
and I think you covered the other questions.
Okay. Eve, it's back to you. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me. Sorry,
Oh.
my voice was challenged, and you got every nose blow that
I
I
s-
and
I
every
suggest you take a shot of brandy. That'll clear your pipes.
port's
I
my
wanna-
drink of choice.
I want to thank you. You know, I've had a ancestor I've been looking for, and I thought I had looked under every rock. There's apparently a lot of rocks out there that I didn't know about,
There's a
and
lot of rocks. Yeah.
so it's given me some new hope, and maybe I'll find something. Well, thank you so much, Jill.
Certainly.
And